Welcome to Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right here for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And you can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. Really appreciate you joining me here on Inside the Mavs Live. You can also become a Gray Area Club member for just a few bucks a month. Excuse me. Excuse me. I had to sneeze a couple times. Not necessarily the greatest thing to do on a video, but hey, had to do it anyway. Appreciate you joining me, Mark. Good to see you here in our Mavs YouTube chat room. You can also find me on Twitter again at Kevin Gray Sports. And you can also find me on your home with the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105 through the Fan. The Mavericks stave off elimination at least for one more time. Again, you could join our Mavs YouTube chat room. If you got a super chat that you want to throw in there, you could definitely throw that in there. If you got a question, you could become a Gray Area Club member for just a few bucks a month. And you could join in on the party with all of our live content and all the stuff I got going on for you right here on my YouTube channel here at Kevin Gray Sports. The Mavs, as I mentioned, stave off elimination. They get a 119-109 win. They hit 23 pointers, and they are able to go back now to Golden State for game number 5, which will be on Thursday night. The season is not over just yet for the Dallas Mavericks, who, look, through the first 3 games of this season, of this series, it looked like things are going to be pretty over pretty quickly in game number 4. But at the same time, it is what it is for the Mavericks going forward here. Let's see here. From incompetent injury, I think less people care for the game than they did. Yes. And before I go any further, obviously, all prayers and condolences to the victims in the Uvalde school shooting. It was just a tragedy that took place yesterday. And obviously, our hearts and minds and thoughts and prayers are with all the families of those who lost loved ones in this horrific tragedy. And there was a moment of silence before the game last night, obviously, to commemorate the lives that were lost and injured, obviously, in the tragic shooting. And it's not something that want to be having to talk about, when it comes to this, but at the same time, obviously, we send those prayers, thoughts, and condolences to all of those families who are dealing with just a senseless loss of life, unfortunately, once again. And again, we send all thoughts and prayers to the victims of the Uvalde school shooting that took place yesterday. And yesterday, the Mavericks served as somewhat of a distraction from the events that took place yesterday. And fortunately, we're able to give the home crowd an opportunity to cheer for at least for a few hours to take their minds off of the tragic events that took place yesterday. And it's obviously something that, as you put all of this into perspective, Steve Kerr with his passionate comments before the game and talking about and pleading with our leadership to be able to do something when it comes to handling these kinds of situations once again going forward, it's something that needs to be done and needs to be dealt with when it comes to the unfortunate and senseless violence that we've seen in this country when it comes to massive shootings across the United States. So again, our thoughts and prayers are with the individuals who lost their lives in the Uvalde school shooting and the families, members, and friends and loved ones who were dealing with this senseless loss of life once again. The Mavericks, though, were able to provide somewhat of a distraction yesterday, getting that 119-109 win over the Golden State Warriors. They hit 23 pointers in the game. The Mavericks now on this season, when they hit at least 17 3-pointers in a game, are 20-3 and 6-2 this postseason when they've hit at least 17 3-pointers in a game. We appreciate you joining me right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can catch me on your home with the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. From incompetent engineer, glad Luka could grab a game. But man, yeah, I know it's been tough, obviously, in this series and playing under the circumstances that they were playing under yesterday. Glad that the team was able to give that home crowd something to cheer for and to be able to at least see this team go out on a win on their home floor, despite what we think is the inevitable in this series. But At the same time, the Mavericks give themselves another opportunity to fight for another day and have a chance to play in Golden State to try and extend their series even further. We know that no NBA team has ever come back from being down 3-0 to win a best-of-7 series, but history has to be made at some point. And if the Mavericks could be that first team, why not it be the Mavericks, who have been on an improbable run so far through these playoffs? Why not they be the first team that could possibly do it when it comes to coming back from a 3-0 deficit? For Mark here in our Mavs YouTube chat room, heard some talk that the Mavs 3-point woes may have been fatigue related. Any stats that support that? Hurt front of the rim, tired legs. What are they going to do to get over the fatigue, and can they keep it going? Well, at this point, Mark, everyone's tired. And I think at this point of the season, the Mavericks have played over 100 basketball games when you include the preseason and obviously the deep run that they've been in these NBA playoffs. Everyone's legs are tired at this point. But what you saw was this energy from the team last night. The defense that they played, they were able to, except for the fourth quarter where they obviously allowed the Golden State Warriors bench to bring them back to the game, where they were up by 29 to begin the fourth quarter. They cut that lead all the way down to 8 thanks to the Golden State Warriors bench that eventually saw Steve Kerr insert Stephen Curry into the game. But they were able to do what they had to do, and they knocked down shots. The energy was there. The energy was flowing on the offensive end. And more importantly, they were able to get some easier looks because they were attacking the basket. And we know when this team attacks the basket, the good things happen for them. And that's exactly what happened in game number 4. Their ability to get into the paint, Jalen Brunson constantly attacking Stephen Curry, even Dorian Finney-Smith attacking closeouts, which I thought was really important for him and his confidence. But they got started early on by knocking down wide open shots. Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Reggie Bullock all hit 2 3-pointers in the first half. So it was really good to see this team knock down shots and obviously be able to do so at a more consistent clip. From Butter for the Hobo, Kevin, what's up? Appreciate you joining me here. Let's see here from Incompetent Engineering. Kids going to have to find an alternative to Luka Ball outside of Bill Walton. No central playmaking figure has willed his team to a championship without a great running mate. Well, we can't do anything about that right now. And the Mavericks are going to have to use what they've got and try to be able to win with what they have. Jalen Brunson, who has been really good in these playoffs, averaging nearly 23 points per game, has increased the amount of shots he's taking, nearly 18 shots per game, or almost 19 shots per game, actually, throughout the course of these playoffs. And he's been a breakout star in the NBA postseason. So they've got to win with what they've got. They got to go with what they have and try to figure out a way on the road to beat Golden State. And the best thing that they can do is what they did in game number 4, which they didn't do in the first 3 games, which was actually win the third quarter. Coming into game 4 last night, they have been outscored by 31 points in the third quarter in the first 3 games. You look at game 4, they were a plus 14 in the third quarter in this game. And that's because their 3-point shooting was absolutely outstanding. When you look at the numbers when they did from the 3-point line last night in the third quarter, they went 8 of 13 from the 3-point line. Again, when this team is making shots, they are difficult to beat. And they had such a poor shooting series to begin with. When they finally started knocking down some shots, they were able to build some momentum and some rhythm throughout the course of the game. Appreciate you joining me here inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. The Mavs and Luka Doncic stave off the Warriors elimination. Luka Doncic is named to All-NBA first team for the 3rd consecutive year, which we'll touch on here in just a little bit. If you're in here, make sure you're smashing that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Hit that like button and let people know that we are talking all things Mavericks right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Just some of the other numbers when you look at what they finally did in this series. The Mavericks shot over 50% on their overall field goal percentage for the first time in this series. So they finally made shots. They finally made them at a consistent clip. And you saw how that translated on the defensive end. We've talked about throughout the course of this season, a lot of their defensive energy comes when they are knocking down shots. We talked about it earlier on in the year also. And Jason Kidd saying, look, this team wasn't built to play defense. When we are not making shots, our heads tend to hang, and we can tend to get down on ourselves. That was not the case in game number 4, finally, with their consistent ability to knock down shots, and more importantly, attacking and aggressively going after Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors on the defensive end. Again, appreciate you joining me here on Inside the Mavs Live. Make sure you're smashing that like button if you're in here. We're talking all things Mavericks as the Mavericks stave off elimination and win game 4 as they get ready for game 5 on Thursday. From Charlie Myers here, Mavs got to find a way to win in Golden State so we can move on. Yeah, look, all pretty much strategy goes out the window at this point. It's about who wants it the most. And obviously, the Mavericks know what is successful for them when it comes to attacking the Golden State Warriors, who have shown multiple looks throughout the course of this series, whether it's 2-3 zones, matchup zones, box and ones, 1-2-2s, man coverages. They've thrown all the kitchen sink and more at the Dallas Mavericks when it comes to their defensive strategy and schematics. But one thing that they have proven, the Mavericks, that they can do against the Golden State Warriors when they choose to put their head down and go to the rim, that's attack these primary defenders. Whether it's Stephen Curry, you saw Jalen Brunson, the very first basket of the game. He went head on at Stephen Curry, was able to get to the bucket and get an and one. When Luka Doncic, for the most part, decides to put his head down, he is getting to the basket. You saw in game 3 where he went 14 of 17 from the free throw line. When this team makes a concerted effort to actually go and attack the rim, we know that they can finish at the rim, but more importantly, find open shooters to be able to get some open looks from the outside. And you look again at the free throw numbers in this game, when you start looking at guys overall, Luka Doncic, 10 free throw attempts with 7 of 10 from the free throw line. But all the things that this team was capable of doing, they finally put it together for 4 quarters for the most part in game 4. You don't like the way that they finished the game, obviously, with the Warriors bench coming in and bringing them all the way back to within 8 to make this thing a little bit tighter than what it needed to be. But a Luka Doncic dunk and then a Jalen Brunson charge that he took and then a Reggie Bullock three-pointer pretty much sealed it for the Dallas Mavericks in the closing minutes of the game to get them an opportunity now to go back to Golden State with a chance to play in game 5. And that's all that you can ask for at this point in a series where things haven't gone their way. We mentioned how outplayed they've been in third quarters, have the Mavericks. They finally turned that around in game number 4. You've seen this team be dominated on the boards throughout the course of the series. They actually won the rebounding margin in game number 4. Also, they had 30 assists on the 40 made field goals that they made last night. So not only were they sharing the ball, but they were knocking down shots and being able to execute based on the passes that they were making. So all of those things aside, again, from the beginning of the fourth quarter, were really positive for the Mavericks when it came to what they did in game 4 to get to a game 5. For Mark here, what happened in the fourth quarter to allow the comeback, given it seemed to be the second team for the Warriors, and what does it say about their chances for game 5? Yeah, you don't like the way that the Mavericks ended the fourth quarter. Obviously, when you look at the numbers, the bench is what did the damage in the fourth quarter for the Golden State Warriors. I mean, in that fourth quarter alone, they had 32 bench points. And I think the Mavericks relaxed defensively. And obviously what was wild about that was being at the game, Steve Kerr had no intentions of putting Stephen Curry back into the game. Even as the game was getting closer and closer, it looked like Steve Kerr was content on allowing the bench players to finish the game. But then once it got to single digits, I think Steve Kerr realized, well, we might actually have a chance in the last 2.5, 3 minutes here to possibly win this basketball game. Let's get Klay Thompson. Let's get Stephen Curry back on the floor and see what happens. Obviously, the Mavericks were able to put things away in the closing minutes to be able to win the game. But Jason Kidd talked about it after the game when he was asked about that. He said, look, well, my hope was that they would get the starters back in. And the thought behind that, I'm thinking, would be, well, let's get them in there where they don't necessarily need to be to try and wear them out a little bit more going into game 5. I guess mission accomplished, But at the same time, it was definitely a lot of trepidation throughout the fourth quarter as the Golden State Warriors bench continued to pour it on. The Mavericks couldn't get stops defensively. And what was funny was it felt like that the Warriors were waving the white flag for the game itself. But at the same time, I guess they felt that they were getting enough from their bench to continue to play them. And they did. It was only until the last 2-3 minutes of the game where they got Stephen Curry into the game and they were able to, the Mavericks, be able to hold off the Golden State Warriors. But yeah, it was a weird fourth quarter. Among a lot of weird things that happened in game 4, you had the 2 roof leaks that delayed the start of the third quarter by 15, 16 minutes. You also had Draymond Green's weird free throw that he missed that just sat on the back of the rim. Obviously, it was a weird night with the Mavericks hitting the 23 pointers that they did after how cold they were in game number 3, and Reggie Bullock was really good after coming off of his 0 for performance in game 3. All the game last night was just really weird on a lot of different scenarios, but obviously the Mavericks were able to stay in it, and they were able to do what they had to do. You think about what the trio of Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Reggie Bullock did in game 3 versus what they did in game 4. They went a combined 2 of 17 in game 3 from the three-point line. In game number 4, they went 12 of 20 combined from the three-point line. So again, when this Mavericks team is hitting shots, they are really good. It's that simple. They are the poster child for being a make or miss league. And when they make shots, Luka Doncic got into the act. And we'll talk about Luka here in a second because he got out to a really slow start in this game. I think he went 0 of 6 for his first 6 shots. Like, it was not necessarily pretty when you look at what he did. You look at the first quarter numbers overall for Luka Doncic, and we'll look at that and take a look at that here. Yeah, he went 2 of 7 in the first quarter, only had 7 points. But you could tell early on, just a slow start for him. And I thought that was going to spell trouble for the Mavericks because it didn't seem like they were having him in the kind of rhythm that you want him accustomed to being, especially in an elimination game where he was averaging, 39 points per game in elimination games. He still wound up with 30, 14, and 9 in this game, which just gives you an indication of how the game came to him throughout the course of game 4. From Charlie here, this summer, the Mavs signed Jalen Brunson and go get Andre Drummond because we need a center. Andre Drummond is not what you want. Trust me, Andre Drummond ain't it. Not in today's NBA, and not what he does when it comes to the center position. If you want a real center, Rudy Gobert, Miles Turner, among others, DeAndre Ayton, I know is a restricted free agent. If you could try and lure him away, if that's something the Mavericks desire to do. But yeah, Andre Drummond ain't it. Love the Jalen Brunson part of it. Andre Drummond, not so much. You need a modern big man who can not only block shots, rebound, but also can stretch the floor from the three-point line and knock down some outside shots. That's not Andre Drummond's game, unfortunately. And at this stage of his career, not too many people are going to be looking to have him as their starting center in the league anyway. But a lot of talk about the Mavericks free agency and what that will look like here in the coming days, obviously, with the NBA draft. You're hopefully not having to talk about that here just yet, obviously, because there's still another game to be played in San Francisco and Golden State on Thursday night. So how did you guys feel about the game? I was there at the game. It was a little bit of, a different kind of energy, obviously, with the tragic events that had taken place earlier in the day and trying to then turn the attention and focus to the game on the court. The Mavericks not necessarily getting out to a great start, especially Luka Doncic, but at the same time, letting the game come to them and knocking down shots as the game went on. It's been a difficult series for this team, given how they've had to adjust to the Golden State Warriors ball movement, their player movement, and what they have been able to do with Kevon Looney, who in game number 4 was relatively quiet when you look at the overall numbers for a guy like Kevon Looney, who's been averaging 12, 13 points, 12, 13 rebounds so far in the course of this series. You look at Looney in game number 4, just 1 of 3 and just 3 points in the game. So didn't have necessarily the kind of dramatic effect that he's had so far throughout the course of the series. But if you're the Dallas Mavericks, knowing that you're going back to Golden State, knowing that you're going back to a building where the Golden State Warriors have not lost a game this postseason, it's going to be tough to walk out of there with a win. But I guess the confidence that you could take if you're the Mavericks, you were up 19 in that building, and you did it on the strength of your ability to knock down shots from the outside. And then as you are continuing to attack Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry, you had a lot of success in being able to attack those primary defenders. For some reason, in the third quarter, the Mavericks got away from that in game 2 and started attacking Kevon Looney, where we know he's been pretty successful in defending this Mavericks team. So if the Mavericks stick to the game plan, which will be find your way into the paint, moving and sharing the basketball and knocking down open shots when you have the ability to, and then being able to close out defensive possessions with rebounds. Again, for the first time in this series, you were able to really win the rebounding margin, and you did so by being +3 on the boards. A lot of that has to do with your ability to knock down shots, not giving the Golden State Warriors opportunities to get the kind of defensive rebounds that can allow them to get out in transition, as they like to do, to be able to finish out on the break. But for the Mavericks, they had to show a measure of physicality to have to gang and team rebound, which at times they have been capable of doing, but they have not shown enough consistency in that to be able to do that, to out rebound teams. And that's going to be a problem going into next season unless they address the center position. Because one thing this team cannot do going forward is to continuously get out rebounded night after night and allowing the kind of amounts of offensive rebounds that you've seen have a dramatic effect in this series for the Golden State Warriors. And if that's the case, the Mavericks can be a team that can be much better defensively, even with what they've done, and hopefully improving that next year. Let's see here. Markley, who is the big man we want that could play in the postseason? Miles Turner is a name. Miles Turner was actually at Game 4 last night at the American Airlines Center doing the NBA Twitter live stuff. He would be a perfect fit, I think, here with his ability to knock down outside shots. You won't be played off the floor. He's got good enough feet and versatility to where he won't be played off the floor defensively. And we know what kind of anchor he is one of the best shot blockers in the NBA. I think Miles Turner fits that modern NBA type center that can do everything that you're looking for, that you're asking modern bigs to do. And he could be a name. I know Rudy Gobert is looming out there, possibly if the Utah Jazz decide to blow things up. And we'll talk about that when that comes up in terms of the NBA free agency trades and what that could look like. For Mark, will you do YouTube after the season, whenever it is, to talk about the steps for the Mavericks next season? Of course. Yeah, definitely we'll be doing that. We'll definitely be doing that when it comes to talking about the Mavericks throughout the course of this offseason. Was there any thought of postponing the game? No, not to my knowledge there was any thought of postponing the game due to the tragic offensive yesterday. So everything was going to be full go with respect to the game itself, and it went on as scheduled with those events. Obviously, a lot of NBA players, coaches talking about the events of yesterday, but no, there was no thought of postponing the game when it came to the Mavericks and the Warriors. Let's see here. From Incompetent Engineering, by the by, I'm still riding on the high that I predicted the Suns wouldn't get out of the second round, and it turned out to be correct. Hey, yeah, look, regardless of how this series ends between the Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors, this team has accomplished a ton this postseason, and much more than what you and I and most Mavericks fans and supporters and people who cover this team expected them to do this postseason. They won a first round series, which I expected them to do, given the talent that they have and the way that they played during the second half of the year and the defensive identity they had created. But then when you got to the Sun series, it was like, okay, let's make this as competitive as possible, and let's put it on the table to see if they can actually compete in this series. And not only did they compete, they didn't quit. Even when being down 3-2, they won back-to-back elimination games, and they were able to move on. And you give them a lot of credit for what they did in Game 7 against the Phoenix Suns, which I think gave a lot of us confidence that maybe they could push the Golden State Warriors to maybe 6 or 7 games in this series. That has not turned out to be the case yet. But at the same time, this team has accomplished much more than what they were scheduled to do coming into this postseason. If you're a Mavericks fan, you should be really proud of that, because now this championship window, I believe, has been open for several years to come. How they capitalize on that with the moves that they make to improve this team will be what to watch for going forward. For Bert Juarez here, are there any realistic options for center this offseason? Is Montrezl Harrell any good off the bench? I mean, he'd be a good bench player, but you need a starting caliber center. You need someone that can play on the floor on both ends of the floor, not be played off the floor when it comes to certain matchups or in the postseason, where Dwight Powell has been basically rendered, for lack of a better word, useless in this postseason. And he's been a placeholder until Maxi Kleber's been able to come in to be able to play his kinds of minutes during the postseason because of his ability to stretch the floor from the three-point line and occasionally put the ball on the deck to be able to get to the free throw line as well. Again, this is Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to smash that like button right here if you're in our Mavs YouTube chat room right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Appreciate you joining me right here as we talk all things Mavericks. Let's see here from Jody the Fourth. What up, KGZ? What's up? Appreciate that. From Dang G, shout out from San Antonio, Texas, MFFL. Let's go. Touch the paint, move the ball, hit our shots, grab a few boards. We'll be all right. Love that optimism. And you touched on a lot of the things that the Mavericks did in Game 4. They got the ball into the paint. When you look at their shot charts, they were devastatingly good at finishing at the rim. They were able to move the ball, had 30 assists on the 41 field goals that they made in Game 4. They knocked down a bunch of shots and were able to really do what they needed to do from the 3-point line. And they won the rebounding margin. They were +3 on the boards and were able to handle their business there. So all the things that we've been asking them to do, they finally put it together for 4 quarters. While, again, you don't like the way that the Mavericks allowed the Golden State Warriors bench, which they scored 32 points in that 4th quarter there, to come back, you still wanted to see them at least get a win, and that's exactly what they did. I'm a Raptors fan, but the Mavs have been, exactly. It's easy to root for this team. They won't quit. They won't give up, and they won't give in no matter what the circumstances are. And this is a team that will continue to do that. Appreciate you joining me right here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, make sure you're smashing that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. From VIP me in Europe, the main problems of the Mavs are the refs. How do people not notice the illicit defenses in a range of situations, especially the hands of the bodies on Mavs players all the time? Yeah, officiating, unfortunately, has been, a big part of the playoffs and how bad it has been at times. But honestly, the officiating in this series hasn't had the kind of, say-so that we've seen throughout the course of other games in this postseason. I've actually been okay with the officiating for the most part, allowing some physicality, allowing some contact. And when you get this deep into the postseason, you're hoping that referees aren't having the kinds of effects on games that could determine outcomes of ball games this deep into the postseason. I think they've actually been okay throughout the course of this series. Also from VIP Me, or Go KG, Go Mavs. Appreciate that. No problem for the stream. Yeah, definitely love doing this here. Talking all things Mavericks basketball. Obviously, glad to talk about them a little bit more. Glad to not have to do any gloom and doom talk today, at least, as the Mavericks were able to stave off elimination. Again, if you're in our Mavs YouTube chat room, make sure you're smashing that like button here, right here on Kevin Gray Sports, Inside the Mavs Live, as the Mavs and Luka Doncic stave off elimination. Luka Doncic, for the 3rd time in his first 4 seasons in the NBA, made All-NBA first team. You look at the All-NBA first team members this year. Giannis, obviously, Devin Booker was great. Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, and the NBA's MVP, excuse me, Nikola Jokic, all made NBA first team this year. But Luka Doncic, for the 3rd time in his first 4 seasons, what a remarkable career start he has had. Won the NBA Rookie of the Year, now 3-time All-NBA first team. Just remarkable, the start of his young career. And obviously, at only 23 years of age, has put himself in that terrific conversation as one of the 5 best players each of the first 3 years, as virtue of being a member of the All-NBA first team. Q-Dog here in our chat room. Again, you can be a Gray Area Club member just like Q-Dog is as well. If you got a super chat you want to throw in there, you could definitely do that. Q-Dog, one of our Gray Area Club members here, joining us here in the chat room. He's got a question. Says, would you trade Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., or Spencer Dinwiddie for Mo Bamba? He can protect the paint and shoot threes. I'm not too high on Mo Bamba. Like, I get it in terms of what he can do and is a cheap option. I'm not necessarily high on Mo Bamba. I want a proven commodity that can have the kind of dramatic effect on this team, both offensively and defensively, that would be worth my while if I'm going to give up some of those pieces, because I'm not giving up Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson will be back in the fold for this team. They have his bird rights, and it would not serve them to not sign him, because it's not like you get the free cap space if you don't re-sign him. So basically, you're in a situation where you sign him, or if you don't have any additional cap space because of the kind of signing you would do with him as far as being your bird right player. So Jalen Brunson, I think, will be back in the fold. I think they'll make the kind of competitive offer that he will respect and be looking to sign to remain a Dallas Maverick. They love him here. They want him here. And obviously he's been a breakout star in these NBA playoffs across the league. He'll have suitors, the Detroit Pistons, the New York Knicks, among others, maybe a dark horse in the Indiana Pacers, obviously with the familiarity that Rick Carlisle has with Jalen Brunson. There will be teams that will be looking to possibly try to make competitive offers that will entice him to possibly leave. But I do think in the very end, Jalen Brunson will be a Dallas Maverick for several years to come. And I think that will be a tremendous signing for them, given how much he's improved and how much growth he still has to do as a player. And I think that's the most exciting part, is that as a fourth-year player, he's taken the leaps and bounds that he has, not only as a playmaker, as a distributor, but a guy who at times can carry you to win ball games, and not only do so in the regular season, but in the postseason. I think the most memorable game, no matter what, this team does in this postseason, his 41-point game in game 2 against the Utah Jazz in the course of this series was absolutely sensational and really helped the Mavericks in a lot of ways save their season, because if they go down 2-0 to Utah, we may be talking about the team not even getting out of the first round again. But it was Jalen Brunson being able to help this team allow themselves that kind of cushion until Luka Doncic came back. That was really spectacular. So Jalen Brunson's earned the right to be here for years to come. Let's see here. VIP Me Europe. It will be very nice if you can meet together with Locked On Mavs, slightly biased little Mavs on a longer YouTube show. Yeah, we've done some stuff together in the past with Locked On Mavs. My guys, Nick Ainstack and Isaac Harris. I actually sit next to Nick every single game at the American Airlines Center. So, yeah, definitely we've done some stuff in the past. You can go check out Locked On Mavs. You can see I made several appearances actually on their show and on their podcast. So we'll definitely be doing more stuff in the future as well. Us Mavs YouTubers got to stick together when it comes to talking about this team. Again, appreciate you joining me right here inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Hit that like button if you're in the Mavs YouTube chat room. Go ahead and make that and smash that like button as well, so that you can get this video out there so people can come on in and talk some Mavs with us. From Samo, it's no vacation for Luka beginning in September. We have to defend the European throne in basketball. That's a great point. Obviously, his summer will not be too short when it comes to his preparation, although I imagine he may take some time off, because obviously this is the deepest postseason run that he's ever made, and coming off of a year where he just played, for the Slovenian team, helping them get all the way, to the medal round of the Olympics last year after, qualifying for the Olympics and then taking Slovenia to a 4th place finish there. My man has played a ton of basketball over the last year and a half. And not just that, you're thinking about the postseason before that, where they obviously lost in the first round, but that series went to 7 games with the Los Angeles Clippers. Then you play another full season of basketball. Then you make the deep postseason run that you made after coming off of an Olympic appearance. My man's played a ton of basketball throughout the course of the last, 2 years now. So he may give himself a little bit of a break once this season is over with. From Q-Dog here, if THJ was healthy, do you think he could make a difference? I would like to see THJ and Dinwiddie on the second team together. I think he would have. He's hopefully, with the reports yesterday from Jason Kidd that, once he meets with doctors, he'll be cleared for additional non-contact activities going forward here. He's getting closer. He will not play in this postseason, obviously, but he's getting closer to being back to 100%. And obviously what his future looks like for this team going into next year will be interesting, because if he can be a 3-point sniper coming off the bench once again to pair with Spencer Dinwiddie, you've got just another additional threat to be able to score the basketball, and THJ could make that difference coming out off the bench for that second unit there. Again, appreciate you smashing that like button here, right here on Kevin Gray Sports. It's inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Let's see here from RIEQ Savage, Vocal Dinosaur. Y'all think the Mavs could force a game 6? We're going to find out. I think they can force a game 6. I think they can do it. The question is, can they execute the way that they need to? Because throughout the first 3 games of the series, you saw how tired this team was. You look at Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith. They're playing the most postseason minutes out of any 2 players in the league. Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith are leading the NBA in this postseason and playoff minutes. These guys are exhausted. They're tired, but you obviously saw them come up with a measure of resolve in game 4 to be able to stave off elimination and then be able to extend this series to a 5th game. So will that fatigue play in traveling back to San Francisco? They did not practice today to try and give themselves as much rest as they possibly could, going back to San Francisco to have an opportunity to be at their best physically, because they have played a ton of miles so far in this postseason, and they'll need their legs to be at their best. So they're going to knock down all these 3-pointers they're going to be taking in game 5. From 1122, go Mavs. I'd be happy with the Western Conference Finals ends at a 4-2 loss. Yeah, after losing the first 3 games, if you find a way. Well, here's the thing about that comment, because that's interesting. If the Mavericks find a way to win Game 5 tomorrow night, it gets really interesting at that point, because now you're coming back to Dallas for a Game 6, and we know how good this team has been at home during the postseason. So here's the thing. The Warriors are going to come out and try to punch them in the mouth early and to knock them out early on in Game 5, because they know as well as anyone the Mavericks are not going to quit. So in that first 5 to 7 minutes, man, I look for Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and these boys to try and blitz them early to jump out to a 20-3, 24-7 run to try and knock this team out early. Because, again, you can't win games in the first quarter, but you sure can lose them. And if the Mavericks do not come out well in that first quarter and the Golden State Warriors blitz them the way that they're capable of doing, the game could be over pretty quickly. So if you're the Mavericks, you got to stay tethered to them throughout the first quarter and withstand the runs that they're going to go on, because this team, we know, is capable of going on really nice runs throughout the course of ball games, and they can put it on you pretty quick. But yeah, if this thing gets to 3-2 after tomorrow night, things get interesting. Not gonna lie to you, things get interesting. Again, not to say that the Mavericks are going to come back to win this series, but the deeper and deeper you can push this series, the more and more you can introduce a little bit of doubt. Because remember, I know this is a different version of the Golden State Warriors, but if you just look at the history, they've blown a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Again, different team, different superstar with LeBron James, different circumstances. They had a Kyrie Irving to go along with LeBron James. I know that the circumstances were different. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility if you get this thing to 3-2 and then take your chances in a Game 6 on Saturday. All bets are off from there. From VIP Media Europe, Luka will move to a higher performance in the next matches. We hope his other teammates will follow him. Yeah, Luka Doncic, look, one thing you can count on from Luka Doncic when it comes to the postseason and elimination games, my man gonna ball out. And yeah, while he didn't have the great shooting numbers in Game 4, he still went for 30, 14, and 9. My man was still doing everything he could to help his team win. And guess what? The rest of the guys came with him. We mentioned it earlier. Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, Maxi Kleber went a combined 12 of 20 from the three-point line, unlike they did in game number 3 when they went a combined 2 of 17. When dudes come with him, this team is good. When they don't, they're not great. They'll need to come with him in Game 5. For Crystal Tomo Ibarra here, appreciate you joining us here on the Mavs YouTube channel. Make sure you smash that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports as we go inside the Mavs and the Luka Doncic stave off the Warriors elimination, as Luka Doncic named for the first team All-NBA for the 3rd straight year. Make sure you smash that like button here, and you can follow me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Let's see, from Dolan CD. Cheers, Kevin. Still remember how I was right after Game 4 against the Suns. Not gloating, just saying Mavs win the next one. The only thing the Mavs can do now is amaze people. The pressure is gone. The only thing that sucks is all the games is at 3 a.m. for us in Europe. I know I feel bad. Y'all have been staying up late watching these games night after night as the postseason has continued to go on. But you said something interesting there. Yeah, there's no pressure on the Mavericks. That's been the thing really since, going into the series against the Phoenix Suns. There was no pressure on them to win that series. They did it. No pressure on them to win this series against the Golden State Warriors. They were not favored to win the series. But as a player and as a competitor, once you get into the situation, while yes, you look at on the outside looking in, the talent disparity between the Mavericks and the Warriors, and obviously the execution and how they run their offense and how they like to get after teams offensively, with the ball movement and player movement of the Golden State Warriors. Once you're in that series, though, you want to win. And Luka Doncic said it last night. He said, look, I still believe that we can win. And that's the competitor in him wanting to try and ensure that his team remains focused on trying to take it one game at a time. I know the cliches. I know it sounds generic, but honestly, it's true. You have to take this one game at a time, one possession at a time, and figure out the best way to win that possession, win that minute, win that quarter, and try to put together 4 quarters the way that they did for the most part in game 4, and then take your chances from there. So we'll see what happens. Again, I'm not saying that this team is going to win this series. The Warriors, I still believe, are going to obviously ultimately get this done. But all you can do is play the games. That's all you can do. And if that's the case, you saw what happened in game 4. You got hot, knocked down a bunch of threes, and you won a basketball game. We'll see if they can do that in game 5 tomorrow night. From Keith, all right. Hey, look, man, I don't know if you're channeling your Matthew McConaughey or you're trolling, but either way, all right. From Montreal Garrett here, appreciate you joining me here on our Inside the Mavs Live right here in our Mavs YouTube chat room. Again, make sure you're smashing that like button here. Come on in as we're talking all things Mavericks basketball after they get their game 4 win against the Golden State Warriors. I'm so excited. We're basically facing 3 game 7s. If these boys don't want to be on vacation, they will buckle down and make NBA history. Hashtag MFFL, hashtag Let's Go Mavs. Yeah, I guess you're trying to avoid Cancun. It's funny because I was talking to Charles Barkley after the game last night, and he said, yeah, I'm sticking to my prediction, Mavs in 7. I was like, okay, so that means we're going to see you Saturday night, right? He's like, yeah, you'll see me Saturday night, unfortunately. Because, look, quiet has kept everybody's tired, man. These cats are tired. They ready to go on vacation. TNT is exclusively showing the Western Conference Finals there on TNT. These dudes are tired, man. It's Luka Doncic and this Mavericks team's job to extend this series as long as possible. And who knows, try to make some history along the way. From Zoom here, Vamos Luka. Hey, let's go Luka for sure. Luka writes history. We hope that this will greatly update it after the season. Also with the first comeback after being down 3-0 for an opponent in NBA history. Yeah, we mentioned it. No team in NBA history has come back down for being 3 games to none. And it's got to happen at some point. Why not the Mavericks be that first team? From Keith, all in, my man. All right, cool. All in. All right, so you weren't trolling. You all in. Appreciate that. From Romel Gerardo here, is this the case where we missed KP for his rebounding and shot blocking? I won't necessarily say that. I mean, yes, he was throughout the course of his time, at least this season, getting back to the kind of rim protector and shot blocker that you wanted him to be, and he was showing a pretty good, consistent amount of that before he got traded. He would definitely help. But I would still say the way that they play now is better. It's better suited for Luka Doncic in his game and what they try to do from an offensive standpoint. But yeah, in some ways, yeah, you do miss, especially the shot blocking aspect, not maybe necessarily from the rebounding perspective, because Porzingis wasn't necessarily a great rebounder, even with his height. But what he was a good help side and weak defender for that. So, it is what it is. Hey, Montreal, appreciate that super sticker, man. Appreciate that. As you can do as Montreal did, you could drop a super sticker or a super chat in here, and we'll get that message and question answered for you right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Again, my name is Kevin Gray, Mavericks Insider from 105 through the Fan. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Again, subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Make sure you're smashing that like button here. If you're inside our Mavs YouTube chat room, let's get as many people in here as possible talking all things Mavs. Get your thoughts going, not just from game 4, but also going into game 5 tomorrow night. From Samo here, psychologically, I believe it's better to be behind where the majority you are an outsider, but in real Warriors will be frightened from game to game closing to game 7. Well, here's the thing, and I get where you're coming from with the comment. The Warriors have been there, done that throughout the course of the 10 years that Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Stephen Curry have been together. They're not going to be scared of any of these moments. In fact, after game 3, Draymond Green said, look, we knew we had to get this game because if we didn't, we knew what kind of series we could be possibly finding ourselves in. And it's funny because if you think about not just what happened last night in game 4, but think back to game 2, the Mavericks are up by 19 with just a couple minutes left in the second quarter. If they find a way to win that game and steal game 2 on the road, we're talking about a completely different series between the Warriors and the Mavericks. We're possibly talking about a 2-2 series going back to Golden State. And all bets are off at that point when it's a best of 3, knowing that you've won a game in their building and ended that undefeated home winning streak this postseason, if you're the Dallas Mavericks. So obviously that's something that you want to take confidence in, going forward for the rest of obviously the series and then going, into Golden State tomorrow night. But we'll see how that turns out for them and what they'll need to do. But yeah, this series could look very different given what has happened throughout the course of these first 4 games, and specifically in game 2, when you had a chance to steal one on the road before coming back to Dallas. Ultimately, it didn't happen. They got down 3 games to none, but they finally got themselves one last night. From Zoom here, I only hope for a correct treatment of Luka by the NBA referees, which is not the case at the moment. Look, these teams know what it is when it comes to officiating. I think the measure of physicality that they've allowed in this series, I've been okay with. Again, I don't like when referees introduce themselves in determining outcomes of ball games. While you want consistency throughout the course of these games, I'm glad that these referees have kind of stayed out of the way, if you will, when it comes to the officiating so far in this series. And that's the case that you want. Let's see here from Crystal's Tomo Ibarra here. You keeping up with the draft, Kevin? Any prospects you want the Mavs to take a look at? I'll be getting into my draft stuff here shortly. It's been so hyper focused on covering this team throughout the course of this playoffs that I have not delved specifically into my draft stuff yet, but I will be here in short order. Trust me. So I got you on that. Let's see here. From Dolan CD, congrats to Luka for his 3rd consecutive first team. Funny how he got more votes than the MVP Joker. Your thoughts, Kev? Spoke to any voters? I did not get a chance to speak to any of the voters. There was plenty of them last night at the game itself, but that news came right before the game, and everybody was obviously focused on covering the game last night. But look, Luka is, and again, I don't normally get into hyperbole, but I don't think this is necessarily hyperbole because I think it's true. If Luka Doncic didn't play another game for the rest of his career, he's already a basketball Hall of Famer. 3 first-team All-NBA selections in his first 4 years, already an NBA Rookie of the Year. He is one of the 5 best players in this league, and there is no question about it anymore. There's no doubt about it anymore. It's now about how many MVPs and championships this cat will win throughout the course of his career. And if he can find himself winning, 2-3 MVPs, which I do think he will, winning an NBA championship or 2, which I do believe he will, we're talking about a guy that's going to be, at the end of his career, one of the 10 best players that this game has ever seen. And again, I don't get into hyperbole, but you've seen through the first 4 years how special this dude is. He's a special, once-in-a-generation talent that doesn't come along very often, who thrives in the clutch, who thrives when the lights are the brightest and the stage is the biggest. In elimination games, we mentioned how well he's been doing in elimination games, averaging 38.3 points per game when it comes to his 5 career elimination games. Like, he's been spectacular. So, yeah, Luka Doncic deserves everything that he's gotten already. He's got his rookie Supermax contract. It's going to kick in at the beginning of this upcoming season. It is what it is there. So I'm happy for him because he's earned every bit of everything that's coming to him. For Leonardo, games 2, 3, and 4 should have been ours. I mean, I agree with you definitely on game 2. Obviously, you got game 4. Game 3 was interesting because you held them to 109 points, but you couldn't buy a bucket from the outside. If you get any measure of shot making in game 3, yeah, you could theoretically say, because defensively, look, for the second consecutive night, or the second consecutive game, I should say, they hold the Warriors to 109 points, which when you look at how high power that offense is, holding the Warriors to 109 points is actually really good. And we're talking about the highest scoring team, throughout the course, this postseason so far. So to hold them in back-to-back games to 109 points, the defense has actually been there in the last 2 games. What you saw in the difference between game 3 and game 4 was the actual shot making in the case of the Dallas Mavericks. If they get any kind of that shot making in game 3, we're still talking about a series. Even if you throw out game 2, we're still talking about a series that's tied at 2 games apiece going back to Golden State tomorrow night. That's just simply what it is. Again, hopefully you're smashing that like button here. If you're inside our Mavs YouTube chat room, smash that like button here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. You can subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And also, you can be like Montreal. You can throw in a super sticker or a super chat to support the channel, and you become a Gray Area Club member for just a few bucks a month. From Romel here in our Mavs YouTube chat room. The future is bright for Luka and the Mavs. I just hope it's not going to be like a Harden Rockets era. Got to click the right buttons next season. Yeah, I think Nico Harris and his front office understand the sense of urgency that they need to have to build around this superstar and what he is capable of continuing to do for this team. And I don't think that they will rest on their laurels, because this is a team, even with the postseason success that it's had, this is not a team that you look at and you say, oh, yeah, we can just run it back with the same group of guys next year and think we're going to get to the Western Conference Finals. That's not going to be the case. So I think they'll continue to try and improve this team next year. From Incompetent Engineering, it's 2 a.m. here. Have a good one, Kevin. Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here. I appreciate that. That means a lot that you would be up that early in the morning to join me here on Inside the Mavs Live here on Kevin Gray Sports. From Zoom, the only thing Luka has not, let's see, are Luka was okay. Yeah, there's still parts of Luka Doncic's game that still have to grow, obviously, and I think some of it you saw in the game last night. Look, I love when Luka Doncic is moving off the basketball. Him and Frank Ntilikina had a give and go last night that I loved, actually, because it just shows you when Luka Doncic decides to move without the ball, he can do it, and he can do it at a high level. And I would love to see more of that as part of his game going into, the coming years as far as his career is concerned. So I love some of those things that he still can grow from. Obviously, could still continue to be a better free throw shooter to really punish his team, punish his teams that he's playing against night in and night out. I think he's capable of doing that as well. Let's see here. Third Coast Meat Smoke, Tolo from Wingside. Hey, what's up, man? Congrats on the new show. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Great Mavs content. Keep shining. Will this team perform better if we had Tim Hardaway Jr.? Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier, that, you would love to see this 3-point sniping of Tim Hardaway as a part of this series. It would be great to have him, obviously, as a part of this team. But at the same time, it is what it is. And what it is for him is that he's got to get healthy. He's got to get healthy, and more importantly, reestablish himself as a contributor to this team, because obviously with Spencer Dinwiddie here now, taking those minutes and what he's done as part of that second unit, how those two play together, I think will be very fun to watch during the first half of the year if they decide to keep both of these players, not only throughout the course of this offseason, but through the first half of the regular season next year. Because if they can, those two could be hot commodities by the time you get to the NBA trade deadline next year, and how that could affect what they could do in the trade market. Let's see. Have you seen it on YouTube how Dwight Powell, Reggie, and Bobby get on the court? As he's funny and ironic. Yeah, they do that before every game. Every single game, Dwight Powell, Reggie Bullock, Boban, they do that, whole Michelin man, walking on the court type thing. And it's fun to watch, man. People are just now getting the taste. That's one of the things that I love about this stage of the playoffs, is that for people on the outside looking in who have not watched the Mavericks throughout the course of the regular season, because they're obviously paying attention to their teams, and then they get to see these teams on the national spotlight, you get to see some of the quirks and some of the stuff that we as beat writers get to see, and, beat reporters get to see, all season long. So, it's nothing that's is necessarily new. But it is funny to see the reaction of people across, the country react to what the Mavericks, how they get down with their postseason, or with their stuff before pre-games, I should say. Keith, love listening to your message. Appreciate that. Hopefully hopefully we can keep this energy for the games. I agree for sure. Let's see from by the way, Kevin, what would your dream lineup for next season be if given a chance to be GM for a day, starter and 6-man? Oh boy. Let's see. For the Mavericks, it would be, I would say, Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith. So Luka, JB, Dorian. I would still leave Reggie Bullock in there as well. And then, honestly, it would probably be Miles Turner at the 5, just because of his versatility. And I know I've mentioned, Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Ayton, but Miles Turner with his, his age, his game, the versatility of what he does as a player, that to me would be my dream 5 for the Mavericks. I love Jalen Brunson. I'm good with Jalen Brunson being in the starting lineup and have him being alongside Luka Doncic, obviously. You got two good perimeter defenders in Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith. And then if you got that center in the middle that can anchor things from a defensive perspective, can block shots, can hit, mid-range jumpers, can extend beyond the three-point line, not be played off the floor in terms of certain matchups, I think you've got a chance to compete for a long time. Now, if you really want to get just super dominant on the defensive end, I think Rudy Gobert would fit what they do. He wouldn't have to clean up the messes of, Rudy Gobert, of Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley and Royce O'Neal, because he's got guys in front of them that actually give have care about defending, on the defensive end. So those would be the two guys I would insert. And then for a six-man, it'd still be Spencer Dinwiddie. I like Spencer Dinwiddie. I know people have been, a little bit sour on him throughout the course of this postseason. And at times he's been good, and at times he's not been good at all. But I still think Spencer Dinwiddie and or Tim Hardaway Jr. would be perfect complements to come off the bench to lead a second unit, especially Dinwiddie and his ability to create. And then a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., who's not necessarily great off the bounce and off the dribble, but is a catch and shoot sniper that could really tear you up from the three-point line, I think would be something that you look at for those starting five and that six-man coming off the bench. Let's see here. From Samuel, please do not forget for Luka, basketball's like a toy for Luka. He enjoys playing and the joy perhaps is transferred to the team. Yeah, look, his teammates feed off of his love and joy and freedom for playing the game of basketball, and it's infectious. And his teammates love him. They love how he plays. They love his competitiveness. They stick up for him. There are plenty of times where you've seen that through the course of this season where other teams have tried to, push Luka around or try to get into his head or whatever the case may be. And his teammates stick up for him. So, trust me, they love him. They play off of him. They love playing with him as well. Last few minutes here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, smash that like button here if you're in our Mavs YouTube chat room before I get out of here today, as we get you caught up on what happened with the Mavericks taking on the Warriors Game 5. We'll be back tomorrow to do another live show as we get you ready for Game 5. So if you guys are wondering about our game preview for tomorrow, I'll be doing a Mavs YouTube live show tomorrow to get you ready for that. It'll be probably around 11, 12 o'clock tomorrow to get you ready for that as well. The difference with the Harden, Rockets, and these Mavs, Luka's proven to take his game to another level. In the postseason, Harden chokes. There you go from Mike Clark there. Let's see here from Third Coast Meet Smokey. If the Suns are looking at moving Ayton, do you think the Mavs give him an honest look? Yeah, why not? You might as well. You need a center. He's a restricted free agent. Yes, the Suns can match any deal that you offer him, but why not? I mean, the thing you have to keep in mind, though, is that the Mavericks are going to be in the luxury tax. Once they sign, I mean, they're already slightly in it now. But they're going to be deep into the luxury tax once they sign Jalen Brunson. You got Luka Doncic's rookie max contract kicking in at the beginning of this upcoming year. They've got to make some real decisions on how they trim some of that fat off this roster. Maybe Dwight Powell, Trey Burke, and others that could be gone when it comes to the decisions that they have to make on their roster. But yeah, why not take a look at DeAndre? You might as well. From Big Tank 9401, what would be a way to attack their zone? Make shots. Make a bunch of shots. And you got to attack the weak spots of the zone. You've got to be able to dribble, penetrate. You've got to be able to get inside to not only just try to make things happen for teammates around you by getting teams to collapse on you when you're attacking, those soft spots in the zone, but you've got to shoot them out of it. And if the Mavericks can find a way to shoot teams out of those zones, then you can get back to attacking them one-on-one, which that's been their best course of action throughout this series, is attacking these guys one-on-one. But if you're going to get them out of their zones, attack the soft spots by dribble penetration with Jalen Brunson, Luka Doncic, get those guys to collapse on you, find open shooters on the outside. But more importantly, just knock down a bunch of shots, and they'll get out of that zone, pretty quick. That's it for me today. We're going to get out of here today. Appreciate that. If you want to join me, I'm going to be doing the spaces here in about 30 minutes on 105 Through the Fan on Twitter. So you can go to my Twitter, follow me there so you can see when I go live on 105 Through the Fan. I'm going to be doing the spaces there, talking also about the Mavericks game going into game number 5, recapping game number 4. So follow me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports, and then go follow 105 Through the Fan. I'll be doing a live spaces there in just a few moments here. Last few comments here before I get out of here. VIP me in Europe. Great shows, KG. Show KG some love with the likes and shares. Appreciate that. Thank you. For Michael Flores, I'm telling you, Mr. Gray, they have no answer for Boban. Coach Rick Carlisle would have played him just to see what happens. Not kid. Hey, we've talked about Boban quite a bit. I know people want to see Boban. It ain't happening, unfortunately. For Luka Skywalker 77, who's another one of our gray area club members. You can become a gray area club member for just a few bucks a month by signing up here as well. Luka Skywalker 77. Wiggins has made me eat crow thus far. Sorry, Mr. Wiggins, though. Mavs in 7, like that energy. My man Ruben, what's up, man? Do you think we can keep Wiggins out of the game because he is the real problem? Didn't see in the regular season. No, he's done a great job of staying out of foul trouble. He's a fantastic one-on-one defender who can defend without fouling. His lateral quickness and movement, can really disrupt teams. He's got great length as well. So he's done a really good job. He's been really good in these plays. And I think the thing that's been most interesting about him in this playoffs or in the series, I should say, Ruben, is his aggressiveness. He has been willing to get after Luka Doncic on the offensive end by, aggressively attacking the rim, hitting mid-range shots. And you can play with that kind of confidence, honestly, when you've got 3 other dudes that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And I know Klay Thompson hasn't been great in this series at all, but knowing that you have that safety blanket with Klay Thompson, with Stephen Curry, with Draymond Green, and his versatility, and honestly what he gives for you offensively, because he's really a liability offensively, you can be aggressive like Andrew Wiggins and attack the way that he has, and he's done that on a consistent manner. So Wiggins, I think, has been really good in his ability to defend without fouling. So, no, that's a great question there. Last one here, Big Tank 9401. I asked Kid because Kid is right when he said they can't guard us one-on-one. Yeah, he's 100% right. When Jalen Brunson and these dudes decide to attack, they can't be stopped going to the rim. How much more they do that in Game 5 will be a question, as they had a lot of success doing that in Game 4. And if they can do it, they'll put themselves in a good position to win in Game 5. Again, appreciate the time with me here today, right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Give me a follow there. Same on Instagram as well. Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. The Mavs stave off elimination. Get Game 4 to set up Game 5 tomorrow night. We'll have another Inside the Mavs Live to preview Game 5. You could join me here in about 30 minutes here on 105 through the Fan. Space is there to talk about Game number 4 and what we might see going into Game 5. Again, you can become a gray area club member for just a few bucks a month, and really appreciate that. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and like button here for this video. Again, my name is Kevin Gray of 105 through the Fan Mavericks Insider. This has been Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. We'll talk to you later.